Can a checkout girl and busy mum make it as a doctor? Tamsin Athwaite's going to give it a pretty good try in our brand new drama Vital Signs, tonight at 9 here on ITV1.
Just like the bad old days, are these Polish thugs about to turn the World Cup into a battleground? Hello, good morning. This is the News Hour on GMTV.
It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 20th of April, 2006.
Well, 50 days until the World Cup, and a worrying scene shot in Eastern Europe of thugs who say they'll travel to Germany to fight British fans. We speak to one of Britain's top policemen who's sending some of his officers in uniform to Germany.
Also this hour, £20 million is needed to feed 11 million starving Africans. But will Oxfam's latest appeal fall victim to compassion fatigue?
And from sat-nav to splash-nav, the car computers landing drivers in, well, pretty deep water, as you can see there.
This is why I don't use sat-nav. I just don't use it because of that. We'll talk more about that later. Let's get the weather first with Andrea.
Good morning. A fairly cloudy start across many parts. You can see it's quite misty and murky as well, especially across the south and west, so bear that in mind if you're heading out on the roads in the next couple of hours or so. There's also some patchy drizzle around. Some places managing to catch some kind of sunshine, mainly across the far south and east and across the Channel Islands. Also looking a bit grey across Scotland this morning. As we go into this afternoon, what we will see is rather more persistent rain pushing in across parts of Ireland into the southwest. Some sunshine managing to hang on across the far south and east, maybe into East Anglia, but generally speaking it's a grey and showery picture, best of the temperatures in the south. John.
Thanks very much indeed, Andrew. Our top story this morning, an emergency package of measures to protect the public from high-risk offenders will be announced today by the Home Secretary Charles Clarke. Denise Gravel has the details.
Charles. The Home Secretary's get-tough approach follows an increasingly long list of crimes committed by offenders while they were on probation. One of the most horrific was the murder of schoolgirl Mary-Ann Lenihan, who was raped and stabbed by a gang of men, 4 of whom, it turned out, were under probation supervision at the time of the killing. The Home Office was already under fire following the murder of wealthy London financier John Monckton at his luxury home. Damien Hansen, convicted along with drug dealer Elliot White, had only been let out of jail 3 months earlier after being released halfway through a 12-year sentence for attempted murder. It's expected supervision orders will be made tougher, with offenders limited as to how much alcohol they can drink, put under curfew and even banned from sports grounds. Opposition from human rights groups is expected, but breaching the new order could carry a maximum sentence of 5 years in jail.
That report from Denise Gravel.
Let's get this morning's other news stories, and we're joined this morning by Sarah Gatenby. Good morning.
Thanks, Jackie. Good morning. Good morning. Oxfam is launching its biggest ever food crisis appeal to help drought-stricken areas of East Africa. The charity hopes to raise £20 million to help millions of people at risk of starvation in countries like Somalia and Kenya. It says there are already reports of people dying because of a shortage of food, and recent rain has increased the risk of disease. Michael Barrymore has welcomed the police's decision to review the death of Stuart Lubbock. The 31-year-old died at a party held at the entertainer's Essex home. Police say they may re-interview Mr Barrymore, who's due back in Britain next week. Robin Ross reports.
It's been 5 years since the body of Stuart Lubbock was found drowned in Michael Barrymore's swimming pool. The 31-year-old had suffered severe internal injuries. A coroner recorded an open verdict, and despite a lengthy police investigation, no one has ever been charged. Now detectives say they ought to review the case. Stuart's father is hoping for answers.
People that were at that party may have remembered something small that happened, or maybe they know something big that happened, and maybe their conscience is pricking them a bit.
Barrymore has vowed to do all he can to help police. At the time of the incident, he defended himself.
I am not responsible for Stuart getting into the pool, and I'm not responsible for his death.
Essex police say the review is routine and that it's possible that Barrymore and others will be re-interviewed. The entertainer moved to New Zealand 3 years ago after the case left his career in tatters. Local press there say he's due back in Britain next week.
Almost 2/3 of burglary victims are in their homes while the crime's taking place. Most are completely unaware they're being burgled, according to new research. The charity Victim Support says 1/4 of us are burgled more than once. The most common items stolen are cash, checkbooks and credit cards. Drunken stag and hen parties who get themselves into trouble abroad should have to pay for help from British diplomats. Consular staff already have the power to make people pay for their services, but it's rarely enforced. The Commons Public Accounts Committee says the number of boozy pre-wedding parties overseas has risen by 70%. It wants more revellers to be made to pay for any help they get. Now, the traditional British cafe is in danger of disappearing, according to a new campaign. It claims continental-style coffee shops are pushing old-fashioned cafes out of the high street. Researchers found 1/3 of people questioned knew of a cafe which was closing in their area. The Save the Proper British Cafe campaign says unless the trend is reversed, most traditional greasy spoons could die out within 5 years. And it's 6 minutes past 6. I'm back in half an hour now. Over to Jackie and John.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's take a look at the papers today. I've got the broadsheets to start off with there. On the Times, we've got a story about charities backing a new rival to the lottery. This is a scheme which will allow punters to choose which good cause will get a portion of money from their ticket. That launches next week. Whoops, then we've got The Guardian. Anger at legal compensation shake-up. This is Charles Clarke's bid to overhaul the law on wrong convictions, and that's being attacked by justice groups. On the Daily Telegraph, we've got that story about the decline of the Great British Breakfast that Sarah just mentioned. Also a story about a dignity nurse in every hospital. This is a special nurse who's going to be appointed in every health service hospital to ensure that elderly patients get treated with the respect they deserve. And it is a good idea. And finally, The Independent. We've got Gordon Brown and David Cameron there, both of them saying why I deserve the Green vote.
Let's have a look at some of the tabloids. The Daily Mail splashes the remarks by a cousin of the Queen saying that she will not be moved, she will not abdicate. The Daily Express has a story saying that Britain has taken 1 in 8 of the entire world's asylum seekers. Picture there of the Queen, happy and glorious. 80th birthday tomorrow, of course. A lot of talk at the moment about BBC fees paid to presenters. £15 million payday for Jonathan Ross, says the Daily Mail. He's in the middle of a tug-of-war between the BBC, ITV and Channel 4.
Almost as much as you know.
Absolutely, yes. You said BBC didn't pay. The man with 7 wives, this is Philip Sharp, who apparently has 7 wives and is quoted as saying, "It's hard work living there." I think that's probably the quote of the week. And on the front page of The Sun, sort of silly story on the face of it with a serious point to it. England football fans urged to sing in German at the World Cup to avoid offending their host. The serious point being that English fans, should do their best to sort of blend in there to avoid trouble. And we'll go on to sport now. And Arsenal are halfway to the Champions League final after beating Villarreal last night, but have they done enough? And in the Premiership, Birmingham breathed a sigh of relief, but for how long, one wonders. Daily Star's Brian Wilner is with us, watched the game at Highbury last night. Have they done enough, do you think?
It wasn't the great occasion that everybody had anticipated. The last big European night at Highbury, the last night game, there was plenty of build-up as far as nostalgia and anticipation. Arsenal played not as they did against Real Madrid and Juventus. They've got the 1 goal. It should be enough because they haven't conceded a goal for 9 games. This is the reverse pass by Henry, clubbed, and there's Toure turning in. First goal he scored at Highbury. Not a bad time to get it. But it should have been more, John.
Yes,
they should have probably had 3 or 4 goals and should be in the Champions League final.
There was an offside, well,
yeah,
was it?
Henry wasn't, but Ljungberg may have just drifted offside, and it was a catalogue of chances after that. They've played much better on this, and when it really mattered, they just couldn't convert the chances into goals. As we're seeing now, was the story of the night, really.
On another night, he'd have converted one of those, wouldn't he?
Yes, he would. Villarreal are the surprise of the Champions League. Their first season in the Champions League, got to the last four. Little tiny ground, the crowd right on top of Arsenal. But as I say, they haven't conceded a goal for 9 games in Europe. If they can keep that going, they'll be through. I suspect that Villarreal, who were tough and a bit uncompromising last night, will have to come out a little bit more, expose some space for Henry.
Yeah.
I think they'll just creep through.
One of the surprises, something I have never seen at a football match before. I don't know whether you have. Relief, as I said, beating Blackburn 2-1.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the goals first of all. And Robbie Savage got a right pace injury in this match.
Yeah, just what Birmingham didn't need, wasn't it? It's a fantastic lifeline.
Yeah.
Nicky Butler, rare goal for him. And then Robbie Savage, of course, equalises.
Yeah.
Not popular at Birmingham because he left, obviously, under a cloud. And then right at the last minute, Forsell gives them this lifeline.
But it is a very, very narrow thread on which they hang on
to
Premiership status at the moment.
They're just out of the bottom three now. Portsmouth back in.
Yeah.
But, of course, on Saturday, Portsmouth home to Sunderland, already relegated, and Birmingham have to go to Everton. So it could twist again. But it makes it interesting, and Birmingham winning just keeps everyone thinking, oh, I wonder who's going to go down.
Come on, what's your bet? Who's going to go down? Sunderland we know are going to go down. What about the other three?
I think that West Brom and Birmingham will go down.
West Brom and Birmingham. So Harry will get away with it again,
yeah, old Harry Houdini. But there's going to be twists and turns right the way through.
Good to see you, Brian. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's 11 minutes past 6. Now, can large multinational companies ever be ethical? Recently, many high-profile ethical brands have been gobbled up by big companies. The latest, Linda McCartney's vegetarian food range, which could be sold to Nestle. So does selling up mean selling out? And do big companies really want to be ethical, or is it just about profit? Here's Michelle Morrison.
The late Linda McCartney was known for her work as an animal rights champion. In 1991, she launched her own brand of vegetarian frozen meals, which have occupied supermarket freezers ever since. Her meals were her attempt to give people a choice to eat well without treating animals unethically. In 1999, Heinz bought the company, and now it looks as though the brand could be sold again, this time to multinational giant Nestle. That's a move which could anger ethical campaigners who have challenged Nestle in the past over its marketing of baby food in the developing world. Just last month, The Body Shop, best known for its no testing on animals policy and selling only ethical products, was taken over by cosmetics giant L'Oreal, which has been criticised in the past for experimenting on animals. And last year, Cadbury bought chocolate brand Green & Black's. The company was set up in the 90s by a husband and wife team who were committed to buying fair trade cocoa beans and making only organic products. The question is, by selling up to multinational giants, are these smaller companies selling out on their principles?
Well, to help answer those questions, I'm joined by Dr. Alan Knight from the Sustainable Development Commission, who advises big companies on ethical responsibilities. Good morning to you. But just briefly explain, what sort of advice do you give these companies? Because it's quite a tricky area.
It's really making sure they understand where their products come from and how they're made, and where there's a real negative issue, such as child labour, poor wages, poor payments for farmers. They do whatever they can to address those issues.
Now, we've just seen there Michelle talking about 3 big companies. I mean, are they just selling out? Why are they doing this?
The small companies which are being sold are probably looking for a larger market share, and they need the support of a big company to do that. These small companies are very true to very high standards, and what I'm interested in seeing, will somebody like Cadbury's actually absorb some of those values from the Green & Black's range into every single product they sell.
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Because surely when the big companies take over, there's got to be a big danger of the brands being watered down, because the big companies just don't have the expertise in these sort of niche areas, do they?
But on something like chocolate, that's going to be very hard to do, because Green & Black's sort of brand essence is it's fair trade and it's organic. And both those things are independently certified. So the certifiers won't let that brand diluted, because they'll take away the certification. You know, what's exciting, what the opportunity is how will those high organic and ethical standards impact on the main range of the whole of Cadbury's?
Well, that is an interesting point. We should wait to see. But, of course, the other thing is management styles must be very different in both companies. So how do they sort of rub along together? Because surely the ethical companies and the big multinationals have got totally different styles of doing things.
It's making it work. I mean, the small companies have that strong entrepreneurial flair. I mean, look at Anita Roddick, a very good entrepreneur, you know, made things happen and challenged the status quo. The big companies are good at getting larger market share and getting larger volumes of products to the customers. What we want to try and see happen is, you know, the good aspects of the small ethical ranges being embedded in the large ranges where you have the mass volume.
What about customers? Because a recent survey has shown that with the Body Shop, for example, customer levels of satisfaction have fallen since it was taken over by L'Oreal. And of course, the Body Shop, famous for its ethics towards animals, L'Oreal, famous in the past, certainly for animal testing. Surely it can't be good for customers.
Well, the customers have got to make it clear why they're moving away from the brand, and perhaps L'Oreal have got more work to do to actually show that the values which are true to Body Shop will be maintained and perhaps absorbed by the larger brand. And perhaps that's where L'Oreal's going wrong. People are associating now Body Shop with L'Oreal's values and not L'Oreal with Body Shop values.
Sure, OK, well, it's a tricky subject, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you can find more about ethical products on our website. That is, of course, gm.tv.
Time now 16 minutes past 6. You're watching the News Hour here on GMTV. These are the headlines you're waking up to this morning. The Home Secretary, Charles Clarke, is to announce a new package of measures to protect the public from high-risk offenders. They'll face tougher supervision when released on probation.
Oxfam has launched its biggest ever food crisis appeal to raise £20 million to help drought-stricken areas of East Africa. It says 11 million people are in urgent need of help.
And a campaign has been launched to save the traditional British cafe against the onslaught by continental-style coffee bars. Now then, with just 50 days to go until the World Cup begins in Germany, final security preparations are being made, and a good thing too. Worrying footage shown by ITV News last night, shot in Poland, reveals many so-called football fans intent on causing trouble, deliberately targeting British fans. Something of a challenge then for my next guest, the Deputy Chief Constable of British Transport Police, Andy Trotter. Good to see you. Thanks very much indeed for getting up to talk to us. I saw that report on the 5:30 AM news this morning. I found it very disturbing indeed. They have a big problem in Poland, don't they? A lot of folks hell-bent, apparently, on causing trouble. That's a big problem for you too, isn't it? I think it's a real worry. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's been a rise in football hooliganism in Eastern Europe and Poland in particular. Having said that, I don't think we should demonise any particular group that's going to the World Cup. I think by using good intelligence and firm policing and good security, all the police forces working together, under the control of the German police, I think there's a good chance we're going to have a safe World Cup. Well, I'm sure you've got good intelligence, but what emerged in that report on ITV News last night was that the Polish police, it seems like, are like 20 years behind the rest of Europe. I mean, they do not have a comprehensive sort of list, apparently, of who the real troublemakers are and what their movements are likely to be. I certainly think there's going to be some challenges, without a doubt. There'll be some groups there intent on causing problems. But having said that, we know that the vast majority of fans from all countries want to enjoy themselves. And if we use those principles of firm, sensible policing, plus, good humour when appropriate, combined with good intelligence of tracking the troublemakers when they come along, then those tried and tested methods have certainly proved well in the past, and I think they'll prove well on this occasion. But this is a bit different, isn't it? I mean, you are sending 28 uniformed officers plus 3 plainclothes officers over to Germany in uniform, right? Now, to a German full of lager, who maybe has just lost, that's a bit provocative, isn't it? Not at all. I think this is a really good innovation. The fact we're working so closely with the German Federal Police, the British Transport Police officers going over will have full powers to work alongside them. We'll be able to liaise between the English fans and the German authorities to smooth the way, to get rid of any misunderstandings. We've got officers who can speak German, who can help to liaise between the fans. And as a result, I think we can prevent trouble from happening. You will have powers of arrest, and obviously you can arrest British fans. What happens if you see a German causing trouble? Well, we're working with the German Federal Police. They're coming over and training our officers over the next few weeks, making sure that we all know exactly what the protocols are going to be. But as police officers with powers, we'll be there to support our German colleagues. So you could arrest a German? We'll be there with them, under their authority and under their direction. But as police officers with powers, we'll use them as appropriate. What about that front page story in The Sun this morning encouraging English fans to sing in German? I mean, I can't see many of them doing that, but behind that was a serious sort of message that we should do our best to blend in, as it were. I think so. I hope that the fans go over there and enjoy themselves and have fun and learn something about, going to Germany, learn something about the local culture and, at the same time, respect our hosts. I think the English football fans' reputation is on the line. It's improved
very much over recent years, and let's hope it improves even more, that everyone enjoys themselves and have fun. But the reason we're sending so many police officers from many forces, including British Transport Police, is to make sure that we can keep it safe and secure wherever possible and assist our German colleagues in so doing.
We wish you all the very best. Thanks very much, Steve, for being with us.
After the break, we'll be speaking to the solicitor representing Stuart Lubbock's family after police revealed they're looking again at his death at Michael Barrymore's house.
Yes, and Andrea will, of course, have a full roundup of the weather.
Sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on this long, slow conveyor belt, just watching the world go by.
A moment of realisation.
So it's true, people like me really can train to be a doctor?
Can be a moment to savour.
I've looked into it and I think I can do it.
Well, I think you should do it. Otherwise you might regret it.
Seize the moment.
I expect 100% commitment from each and every one of you. No excuses.
Tamsin Outhwaite, Vital Signs. Brand new drama tonight at 9, ITV1.
Don't blow piles out of all proportion. Get soothing relief with Germaloid's HC spray.
There's a good reason why the best-selling treatment for warts and verrucas is clinically proven Bazooka Gel. Bazooka simply and safely eliminates warts and verrucas and dries to form a water-resistant protective barrier. No mess, no fuss, no plasters. So for a painless answer to warts and verrucas, ask your pharmacist for the #1 selling Bazooka Gel. And bazooka that verruca.
For ladies who enjoy their cars, Sheila's wheels are superstars. Girls are bored beyond endurance, paying too much for car insurance. For bonds of car insurance deals, girls get under Sheila's wheels. Women make the safest drivers, we could save a bunch of fibers. For bonds of car insurance deals, girls get under Sheila's wheels.
Heartbeat returns on a high.
You're nicking our mushrooms? I can pick all the way mushrooms I want.
Yeah, if you say so.
That's the fuzz.
Ashfordley Police.
Mushrooms? Well, everyone in London eats them. And they're 12-foot high and bright purple. You won't be needing the gun then, will you? No, I'm using biscuits.
Has he been acting strange at all?
It's not always easy to tell with his lordship.
Brand new Heartbeat, Sunday at 8 on ITV1.
Welcome back, it's 6:22. Now, the TV entertainer Michael Barrymore could be questioned again by police over the death of Stuart Lubbock in his swimming pool. Essex police say they'll review the case and that could mean re-interviewing all witnesses. Well, Nick Dixon is at Barrymore's former home in Roydon, Essex, where Stuart Lubbock died in 2001. Good morning, Nick.
Morning, Jackie. A real mystery for 5 years, as you say, an unsolved mystery at that. But Essex police are hopeful that they can finally piece together just what exactly happened on that night. If you recall, Stuart Lubbock's body was found in the swimming pool here at Michael Barrymore's former home in Essex. Medical experts found extensive internal injuries on Lubbock's body. An inquest into his death recorded an open verdict. And to this day, no one has been charged in connection with his death. Now, 5 years on, Essex police have decided to review the case, review the death of Stuart Lubbock. They say there's no new evidence to report as yet, but the inquiry is at a very early stage. But it could well mean that Michael Barrymore is once again questioned by police. And indeed, one of the, or more of the 8 others who were at the party here at his former home on that night. Now, I spoke to the Lubbock family last night. They clearly welcome this news from Essex police. I had a chat to Stuart Lubbock's father, Terry, and he's hopeful that this news will reignite the investigation.
People that were at that party may have remembered something small that happened, or maybe they know something big that happened, and maybe their conscience is pricking them a bit.
Well, as for Michael Barrymore, he's out of the country at the moment and has been for some time. He's in New Zealand, but according to reports, he's due back in the UK next week. He's issued a statement saying that he continues to support the Lubbock family and the investigation, and he'll do whatever he can to assist the police, Jackie.
Nick, thank you very much. Well, as Nick mentioned there, last night Michael Barrymore did say he welcomed the inquiry and he vowed to do all he could to help the police. In an exclusive interview with GMTV back in 2002, this is what he had to say then.
I can't be any more sorry about what happened. I don't know how Stuart got into the pool, but I am not responsible for Stuart getting into the pool, and I'm not responsible for his death.
Michael Barrymore in 2002 there. Well, I'm joined in the studio now by the Lubbock family solicitor, Tony Bennett. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, the saga continues that no charges were ever brought, an open verdict at the inquest. The Lubbock family did try to open a private prosecution and failed due to insufficient evidence. So they must be quite happy that this has now developed.
Oh yes, Mr Lubbock is delighted that there's going to be a review, and I understand it's going to be quite a thorough review. I've heard that there's going to be a team of officers involved. It's not just, I think, a paper review, but I do expect some of those who were interviewed before to be re-interviewed.
No.
And of course they have quite a lot to tell.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, is this an indication that there was some flaw in the original inquiry? The police are insisting it's routine, a routine re-look at the evidence. But is there something new that we don't know about?
The police have admitted that there were flaws in the original inquiry and investigation. One of the most serious was the failure to preserve evidence at the scene. It wasn't declared a crime scene until 2 weeks later, and vital evidence was lost. And there were also flaws in the pathology investigation by Dr. Heath, who omitted several important things from his findings. But at the end of the day, the police established that there was a violent assault, and have always said there was a violent assault. They referred to a wall of silence and just hoped that in the course of time perhaps allegiances would change and that someday somebody would come forward and tell what happened.
And you think that's what's happened now? Somebody has come forward?
There has been a development in that one of the female witnesses has been under investigation for perjury since February. And that's a parallel investigation that's going on. She, I think, probably has things to tell the police. I don't know whether that's related or not, but certainly some of the witnesses who've spoken so far publicly in the press have not told the real story of what happened at the party, which I've been able to investigate over the last 2 or 3 months. There's definitely significant facts to come out, no doubt about it.
OK, well, certainly will be very interesting, and the saga continues. Tony Bennett, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Time now, 27 minutes past 6. Let's catch up on the weather with Andrea, who will tell us what's going to happen, not just tomorrow, I guess, but for the weekend as well, maybe.
And so for the north of England and North Wales, we'll have...
GMTV weather, sponsored by Nestlé Cereals. Whole grain for the whole family every morning.
Hello there, good morning. Cloudy picture just about everywhere, as you can see across the country today. If we take a look underneath, what's maybe not being picked up is just how misty and murky it is just across the southwest and some southern counties of England through this morning. Elsewhere, well, as you can see, grey skies. There's bits and pieces of rain around. Let's take a look at this morning's chart. We can see all that in more detail. There's that mist and murk, as I said. Bits and pieces of rain around. It's not necessarily heavy. It is fairly light and patchy. And although it's cloudy at the moment in the southeast, hopefully as the morning goes on, we could well see some sunnier outbreaks across the far southeast and across the Channel Islands as well. Now then, let's see what's happening for this afternoon. Starting off dry and bright across the more northern parts of Scotland. We have seen a touch of frost there this morning, so temperatures, I think, struggling a wee bit, only really getting up to around 9 degrees. And we will see some rain moving in from the southwest across Scotland later on, so maybe turning a little bit cloudier than it is this morning. Not doing too badly for Northern Ireland. Again, a mixture of sunshine and showers. Similar story really across the Borders region in towards northern parts of England. There you can see those grey skies that I showed you earlier on this morning's chart. Not really much to write home about. It's just going to be grey. The rain is going to be patchy. Maybe seeing some brightness later across Lincolnshire, maybe into parts of East Anglia and across the far south and east. Temperatures not doing too badly, getting up to around 15 degrees. Touch breezy across the southwest. If I just move out the way, you can see expecting to see some rain across the Isles of Scilly, pushing in towards western parts of Cornwall. Generally speaking, it's going to be grey skies just about everywhere today. Now, looking ahead to Friday, slight improvement. We could see a bit more in the way of sunshine, again across East Anglia, down towards the southeast, into the Channel Islands, and maybe even for Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland. But even here and there, we will see bits and pieces of cloud. Now, for the weekend, things looking a little bit better than we hoped at the beginning of the week. For Saturday, we should be, generally speaking, quite a fine and bright day. We will see some cloud and showers, though, across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland. And for Saturday, we will see that area of rain sinking its way southwards, but hopefully it's going to break up as it does so. Which means, of course, for the marathon, hopefully it should be dry and fine, highs of around 18 degrees. Here's your summary. For your in-depth local outlook, visit our website, gm.tv, or for a 10-day forecast, call GMTV's Weatherline on 0905 514 0000.
It's 6:30. It must be competition time. Your chance to win £10,000 by the end of the show.
It's the Great Easter Checkathon, which means you could win £10,000 today. We'll be revealing the winner by the end of the show, so here's the question you need to answer to be in with a chance of winning. Why? Which actor wrote and starred in Fawlty Towers? A. Bob Monkhouse, B. John Cleese, or C. Michael Barrymore? That was the question. Here's how you can enter.
You can dial 09068 100 100. That's 09068 100 100. Or you can text A, B or C as your answer, plus your name and full address to 81149. Or you can enter via the website.
Lines are only open till 9 o'clock and we'll announce the winner by the end of the show. So good luck and get dialing. Why?
OK, time now 31 minutes past 6 on Thursday, the 20th of April 2006. You're watching the News Hour here on GMTV.
In the next half an hour, how you can help feed 11 million starving people. We speak to Oxfam as they launch their biggest ever appeal to help those dying in East Africa.
And we'll be finding out the big winners at last night's Asian Business Awards in London. No, I didn't get one. I was handing one out, and we'll be meeting that gentleman and another, I hope, a little bit later on.
You looked rather handsome.
Thank you very much indeed, Jay. Some mistake, obviously.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. And from sat-nav to splash-nav, the car computers landing drivers literally in deep water. Oh, dear. Now, the top story this morning, a new package of measures to protect the public from high-risk offenders will be announced today by the Home Secretary, Charles Clarke. Denise Gravel reports.
Charles? The Home Secretary's get-tough approach follows an increasingly long list of crimes committed by offenders while they were on probation. One of the most horrific was the murder of schoolgirl Mary-Ann Lenihan, who was raped and stabbed by a gang of men, 4 of whom, it turned out, were under probation supervision at the time of the killing. The Home Office was already under fire following the murder of wealthy London financier John Monckton at his luxury home. Damien Hanson, convicted along with drug dealer Elliot White, had only been let out of jail 3 months earlier after being released halfway through a 12-year sentence for attempted murder. It's expected supervision orders will be made tougher, with offenders limited as to how much alcohol they can drink, put under curfew and even banned from sports grounds. Opposition from human rights groups is expected, but breaching the new order could carry a maximum sentence of 5 years in jail.
OK, let's catch up on the rest of the news. Here's Sarah.
Thanks, John. Good morning. Oxfam is launching its biggest ever food crisis appeal to help drought-stricken areas of East Africa. The charity hopes to raise £20 million to help millions of people at risk of starvation in countries like Somalia and Kenya. It says there are already reports of people dying because of a shortage of food, and recent rain has increased the risk of disease. Michael Barrymore has welcomed the police's decision to review the death of Stuart Lubbock. The 31-year-old died at a party held at the entertainer's Essex home. Robin Ross reports.
It's been 5 years since the body of Stuart Lubbock was found drowned in Michael Barrymore's swimming pool. The 31-year-old had suffered severe internal injuries. A coroner recorded an open verdict, and despite a lengthy police investigation, no one has ever been charged. Now detectives say they ought to review the case. Stuart's father is hoping for answers.
People that were at that party may have remembered something small that happened, or maybe they know something big that happened, and maybe their conscience is pricking them a bit.
Barrymore has vowed to do all he can to help police. At the time of the incident, he defended himself.
I am not responsible for Stuart getting into the pool. and I'm not responsible for his death.
Essex police say the review is routine and that it's possible that Barrymore and others will be re-interviewed. The entertainer moved to New Zealand 3 years ago after the case left his career in tatters. Local press there say he's due back in Britain next week.
The Foreign Office are investigating reports that a senior Al-Qaeda terrorist in custody in Turkey claimed he was a member of the gang which abducted and murdered British hostage Ken Bigley. The Guardian claims Louis Asaka said he presided over a mock trial of Mr Bigley shortly before he was killed in Iraq in 2004. He's refused to say who carried out the murder or reveal the whereabouts of Mr Bigley's body. Trial. Now, the time is 35 minutes past 6. The next bulletin's at 7 o'clock, and here's what's happening where you are.
Good morning and welcome to the breakfast news from ITV Granada. First, Michael Shields could find out today if his appeal against his conviction's been successful. He's currently serving 15 years in jail in Bulgaria for the attempted murder of a barman. Liz Fordham reports.
Michael Shields has always said he's innocent of attempted murder. That on the night the barman was injured, he was in bed at his hotel. This seemed to be backed up by a confession another man, Graham Sankey, made. But the Bulgarian courts wouldn't accept it, and he later withdrew it. A month ago, Michael appealed against his conviction, claiming the case hadn't been dealt with properly. He said eyewitnesses had been biased or ignored, and there were other discrepancies too.
I know like an identity parade is supposed to assemble, yeah, and these people never look like me. So, even then, I just got a sick feeling, thinking something's not right.
The best outcome he can hope for from this appeal is a chance of a retrial. Today is the last day of the period judges said they'd take to consider their decision. By tonight, Michael and his family could have some hope that justice might be done.
There'll be traffic problems and disruption to the trains in Runcorn this morning after an explosion left a large hole in the road. The 20-foot by 3-foot hole on Whitchurch Way appeared after the blast on a railway bridge. It's believed to have been caused by gas or electricity from the railway. British Transport Police are currently investigating. A climber's died after falling more than 100 feet down cliffs in the Lake District. The 19-year-old was on crags in Coniston with his brother when it appeared they both fell. His brother suffered only minor injuries. The alarm was raised by walkers who saw what happened and dialed the emergency services. A decision could be made today on whether or not Liverpool will get its controversial 5th grace. The board of the North West Development Agency are meeting to decide whether they'll award the X-shaped museum a crucial £32 million grant. It comes 5 months after Tessa Jowell rejected the museum's bid for over £11 million to finance the interior of the building. In last night's football, just one result from the Premiership. Blackburn Rovers lost 2-1 at Birmingham, despite Robbie Savage scoring his first ever goal for the club. That's it for now. I'm back at 7:05. Time now for a look at the region's weather.
Take a deep breath and shout down the weather.
A fairly misty start with largely cloudy skies, giving some patchy light rain and drizzle. This afternoon, again, mainly cloudy with more light rain, highs of around 14 degrees.
Welcome back. 21 minutes to 7 is the time. Quick look at the morning papers. The Times has an interesting story saying that a rival to the National Lottery that promises to allow punters to choose which cause will get 30p in every pound is to be launched next week with the support of several charities that are apparently fed up with the official game. On the front page of the Daily Telegraph, that wonderfully attractive picture of traditional English breakfast.
It looks delicious.
It does look
I could
fantastic.
eat that now.
Yeah. Full complete heart attack there. That's there because, of course, there's a threat apparently to the traditional English cafe from sort of espresso bars, etc., etc. And alongside it, interesting story saying that dignity nurses, so-called dignity nurses, are going to be appointed at hospitals to ensure that elderly patients are treated with the respect they deserve. I'm sure that'll be welcomed by everyone. Front page of The Independent, Why I Deserve the Green Vote. That's an exclusive interview with the two PMs in waiting, as it were, Messrs Cameron and Brown. I assume Mr Brown is the man for the job, as it were, at the end of the day. And on the front page of The Guardian, miscarriage of justice campaigners enraged, apparently, by plans to stop defendants walking free from the Court of Appeal after their convictions have been quashed on a technicality.
Front page of The Sun is one we'd like to hear your views on this morning, actually. Foreign Office apparently telling fans at the World Cup to sing in German to avoid offending their hosts. If you've got views on that one, you can text us on 81189, the usual number, there it is. Well, that's what The Sun is saying this morning. Daily Express, 1 in 8 of all asylum seekers lands in Britain. More and more crowd in, but only a tiny few are thrown out, according to the Express. Daily Mail, we've got a nice picture of the Queen there on the eve of her 80th birthday. One shall not be moved. The Queen, apparently, according to her cousin, is never planning to abdicate. And the Daily Star has this story about the man with 7 wives.
OK, let's move on now, because Oxfam launch their biggest ever appeal today. They want £20 million to help 11 million starving people in East Africa, a region ravaged by drought and famine. We're joined today by ITV News' Neil Connery, who's spent a great deal of time in East Africa, and Oxfam's Sarah Kine. Good morning to you both. I was very moved by your report. I'm sure millions of other people were too, or your reports, I should say, Neil. I mean, you're a seasoned, if you don't mind me saying so, campaigner, as it were. You've been out there, seen a lot of the world at its worst as well as its best. Weren't you a bit shocked by what you saw and found?
Very much so, John. This part of Africa, people are very hard and tough and used to dealing with droughts, but we're talking about the worst drought in living memory. Every single person that I met in Kenya and in Somalia, they told me that they'd never witnessed scenes like this. The suffering is on an enormous scale and the need is very real and very urgent.
And the big problem is the cattle that we just saw that have been killed off in their thousands, and because they depend so much on their cattle, don't they?
Absolutely. These are pastoralists. They need these cattle to survive. They've been completely wiped out. So even though there has been some limited rain in the past 2 weeks, it's rather an academic question because the damage has been done. These people's livelihoods are now ruined. So the question for them is, what are they going to survive on? How they're going to get through the next few years? It's a very bleak situation.
Sarah, the British public have a great reputation, quite properly, for generosity towards others, and never more so than during the tsunami, which we all saw. That was live. It was Christmas or just after Christmas. It was in our homes. We were watching live pictures of this tragedy. Terrible. This is a bit different, isn't it? And you're asking for a vast amount of money.
Yes, I mean, this is actually on a scale which is far bigger than what the tsunami itself. And as you said, the British public are traditionally incredibly generous, and what we hope very much is that they will see these terrible pictures and feel they need to help. It's unprecedented for Oxfam to launch an appeal of this size. It shows the scale that we think of the tragedy as it's unfolding, and we really want to help now.
Because quick fixes don't work in this particular situation, Neil, do they?
They don't. The problems are so complex here in terms of aid distribution, particularly in countries like Somalia, which has suffered from civil war and insecurity for so long. Getting to the aid to the people who need it, that is one of the key problems in Somalia. And talking about the rains that have arrived, there's a mixed blessing there because, as we were discussing earlier, the problem with that is it makes the roads impassable in terms of getting the food to the people who need it.
The worry many people will have, and it's a justified worry, is that time and time again in the past they've donated their hard-earned cash, and then they've read 6 months later it's never got there. Some corrupt governments eat it up, or there's simply been some form of maladministration which has prevented that cause being assisted. What can you say to those people this morning?
Well, I mean, there are obviously cases where aid does go missing, but I think they're quite rare, and overall we're quite confident that the aid can get through. We're working closely with the governments in the region. The Kenyan government has actually been doing a lot itself already. It's doing the most, of course, in terms of giving money, in terms of support, but this is such a huge tragedy, and it's very difficult for a government like Kenya, which is relatively poor, to cope with something of this scale. And similarly for countries like Somalia, which are racked by conflict, it really does require outside assistance. And sadly, actually, the reason we're launching this appeal now is that the international community has failed so far to step up to the plate and provide enough money, and so we have to go to the public and ask them for support.
Well, we wish you well. Thank you very much to you, Sarah, for being with us. Neil, thank you very much indeed to you. And if you want to find out more about Oxfam's campaign, log on to our website, usual place, gm.tv.
You're watching the News Hour on GMTV. This morning's headlines. The Home Secretary Charles Clarke is to announce a new package of measures to protect the public from high-risk offenders. They'll face tougher supervision when released on probation.
Michael Barrymore has welcomed the decision by the police to review the death of Stuart Lubbock, whose body was found at Mr Barrymore's home. He may be interviewed by police as part of this process.
And a campaign's been launched to save the traditional British cafe against the onslaught by continental-style coffee bars. Now, it may be a must-have gadget for the modern car owner, but satellite navigation is landing some drivers, quite literally, in very deep water. Rachel Harrison is in Luckington in Wiltshire to tell us more. Now, Rachel, quite apart from the problem drivers are having now, I do believe you have a small personal problem in the form of a leaking welly?
I did have a leaking welly, yes, you're very right, and I've had to amend that problem very quickly. But I have to say that we've all heard about lorries driving through small country villages, but not many people would actually drive through the River Avon. But that's exactly what some sat navigation drivers have been doing.
It's a marvellous thing, modern technology. Even when a road is closed, SatNav finds you an alternative route. Unfortunately, this one goes straight through a river.
It doesn't have brains in the way that we have brains, so it doesn't logically think it's been raining and therefore, you know, it's flooded. So there's a good argument for 4x4s.
Over the last month, dozens of drivers passing through the village of Luckington have put their faith in technology and become well and truly stuck.
I've come over the wall and to talk to somebody sitting in a van in the Ford, and he said, "But my sat-nav told me to come this way."
At least there's still one form of horsepower that manages very well without a computer.
Now, I'm going to come to the defence of some of those drivers because, as you can see, there's a dirt track which actually brings you down to the ford here. And the first thing the driver will see is this little water gauge. Now, the water gauge says that it's less than 1 foot deep. So you might think, well, that's OK, it's well below my tyre level. However, this has been positioned in the shallowest part of the ford. And if you watch me walk straight through now, you realise that as I go further, it gets much deeper. And of course, when it's been raining, it'll get even worse. And at some point, it's been up to 2 to 3 feet deep. This is well above a tyre level of a car. Not only that, the other problem is that it's a dirt, stony truck there. But when you actually get into the ford, it's pure silt, which is why it is so boggy and so many drivers have actually got stuck. Now, the village has come into its own because many of them have said, OK, well, what can we do about it? Well, the local farmer's making a bit of extra cash. He's charging £25 to get his tractor to pull vehicles out. And the lady in the cottage to the left of me is actually offering a free tumble-dry service for those who get a little bit wet, like I have this morning. And I can tell you, if you're a driver that's stuck in the middle of this, the last thing you need to be told by your sat navigation system is turn around when possible.
That, Rachel, is why I don't use sat-nav, because I have followed a cameraman who says, follow me, it'll be quicker. And I've seen him go down one-way streets and no entry roads because the sat-nav tells him to. I don't use it. Stick to maps, that's my advice.
Well, they're great. They have their uses, but not always, I think, and this proves the perfect example.
You get out of the water, Rachel. Thanks ever so much.
OK, time now 12 minutes to 7. Very good morning to you if you're just joining us. Now, if anyone ever doubted the impact Britain's Asian community has on the economy, hear this. Recent figures show Asians make up 4% of the population, but account for 10% of the wealth created by business. Well, last night, that success was recognised at the Asian Business Awards, now in their 10th year, which I attended. And we're joined now by 2 of last night's winners, Carl Sandhu and Lord Paul. Very good morning to you both, especially you, Carl, who I gather you're up till 4 o'clock this morning celebrating your success. Very well done. So great to see you here. Yours is a fabulous story. You started out on the markets age 14, yeah?
That's correct, yes.
What were you selling?
Anything and everything, really. You know, it was clothes, a variety of things.
With your brother and your father?
That's correct, yes.
In the best of Asian traditions?
Absolutely.
A family affair. Then you spotted an opening in the market. What was that? Not that market, but the business market, as it were.
Well, I spotted an opening. I was a member of a club myself, a health club, and I was kind of sitting there one day and I thought, you know, this is something I want to get involved in. And an opportunity came up and I didn't look back from there on in.
And now it's alleged you're worth how many million? 50 million?
Something like that.
Something like that. He shrugs it off. But I mean, it's a great story. But to do that, to sort of get into that kind of business, I mean, obviously you need money. What else do you need? Nerve?
I think biggest thing you need determination, you need self-belief, you need guts, vision, and never give up.
Lord Paul, why are Asian people so good at business?
I think partly because they all have grown up in a joint family. That gives a lot of strength and confidence to you. Secondly, when you are ethnic in any part of the world, you have to work that much harder to prove yourself. And you find the challenge. And without challenge, you really cannot succeed.
Why do you have to work so much harder in Britain if you're Asian?
Oh, it's not a question of Asian working harder in Britain. If a Britisher goes to India, in order to be successful, he has to work 120% to be counted 100%. And this is no different for the Asians coming here. It's really part of, if you are ethnic in any country, you have to work that much harder to prove yourself.
Now, you got your award, like the one Carl has here, for services to the community. You've done a great deal of charity work, and that charity work started in memory to your daughter, who sadly passed away after coming to this country for medical help, didn't she? Tell us about her and why that started.
No, in 1966, my daughter fell ill when I was in India, and I brought her for treatment. We knew we were fighting a losing battle because she was suffering from leukemia. But she was in and out of the hospital for 22 months. And then we lost her. This was a very shattering experience, both for my wife and I. So I took what in India we call sannyas. You go into meditation and leave worldly life altogether. And the only reason I stayed in this country was because she had died here. And I wanted to live exactly in the place where she had died. And I still live there.
And you set up a charity in her memory, for which you were rewarded last night, and I guess that award is for her as much as it's for you. It was a fabulous night last night, by the way. Sorry that there we are. There you are, getting your award. Thank you very much for inviting me and some of my colleagues. Claire Nazir was there, and Arouj de Fuicha. Great night. Thank you very much indeed for being with us this morning, and congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
OK, Fiona and Ben here with GMTV today. In just a tick.
Yeah, they'll have more on the Queen's 80th birthday celebrations.
But first, of course, the weather with Andrea.